What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Tag Team, the Pokemon Trading Card Games premier podcasting duo. My name is Riley Holbert, joined as always by my good friend JW Krewall. JW, how's it hanging today?
Pretty good, Riley. I had an unintended day off.
An unintended day off. What does that
Yeah.
constitute?
Well, so I have been picking up this job here with the Census Bureau, doing some knocking on doors, going door to door, asking for people's information. And we get our assignments like the morning of, and the system just went down. So I was like supposed to work, 6 or 8 hours today, and I worked no hours because the system broke. And so kind of had a little bit of a free day today.
Oh, wow. I didn't know
Yeah.
systems like that would just go down on you.
Well, I know it's a pretty simple system. You'd be surprised at how many errors there are, but there are significant numbers of errors.
Awesome. Well, anything else exciting going on? I mean, day off's
Man,
pretty cool.
I wish I could say something was more exciting in my life. We just had the Full Grip online series inaugural tournament yesterday, which was a blast to be a part of.
Yeah,
So I'd say that was pretty exciting.
I could really see the gears spinning in your brain as you tried to get the word inaugural out there.
Well, they don't, in my old age, they don't come quite as quickly anymore.
And older by the day too, right?
I know it doesn't stop, really, Riley.
Nothing
Enjoy your
turns back the
time.
wheels of time.
Enjoy your time as a 24-year-old because soon enough you'll be as old as me.
Well, I've been saying this, man. I feel like I've been 24 for too long now. It's
Yeah.
an atrociously long time to be 24.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely been rough, and I've been reading too about the election and how if it's close race, how there might be some like refusal to either give up power or like a refusal by the other party to like admit defeat, and that's got me scared too, man. Because like, what a perfect cap to 2020 is to have our presidential election like
Up in
be
flames.
yeah, oh yeah, be sent, to the judiciary courts or to Congress to, resolve. I think that would just be
You know,
insane. And yeah, just another perfect way to encapsulate all that 2020 has been.
one thing you can't let me forget to do this is I have to get a new driver's license because your 21 driver's license expires when you're 25 on that day. So, um, yikes.
Well, I will make sure to call you, text you, set up an email reminder.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Okay, good. Maybe I'll even make a YouTube video so when you upload the podcast for that week, you'll see a video there already that says Riley, make sure to
Renew your driver's
get your
license.
get your driver's license renewed.
Yeah, I just gotta imagine the BMV is like super weird. You know?
Have you never been?
Well, just like in the current context of
Oh, yes, yes. You have
I've,
to make appointments. I heard that you have to make appointments well in advance, and then it's still slow.
yeah.
Which I mean, it would make sense, but just like, they still haven't figured out a way to streamline, making reservations for people. So,
Right. What an absurd
ridiculous.
organization.
Number one in inefficiency.
Number one in inefficiency. Yeah, absolutely. They top the charts every time. Also, I gotta say, man, this isn't really relevant to the listeners, but your camera is like a little laggy here.
It is looking a little bit laggy. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess we can roll with it, but
As long as the audio's coming through.
no, I mean, I can hear you
All right, well,
responding to
good enough.
things you say. So, yeah.
Fair enough.
All right. Well, sorry, viewers. You're just gonna have to deal with JW and his lips being a little out of sync with his words.
Yeah, it's just gonna have to be how it is. Sorry, guys.
Anyway, so you mentioned the Full Grip series, and I'd like to talk about that. Obviously, we have things to say about the meta. We've already talked a lot about this meta, and I think the Full Grip series honestly kind of encapsulated the meta that we've talked about. So I want to break down instead some of the aspects of what it was like to be a part of that experience. So we've been talking now for a couple weeks about, what it would look like, how you envision it coming forth. And honestly, from my perspective, as someone who participated and watched the tournament, I thought it was really spectacularly done. So talk to me about what goes into the back end of these things. What was your thought process? What were the kind of things that you needed to implement or consider ahead of time to make this so successful?
Yeah, well, I think with any tournament series or really any just event, it's really important to have kind of an infrastructure in place. And for us, that was having Natalie, myself, and Andrew all there kind of at the drop of a hat, just being able to have those moderation privileges, being able to access any part of the tournament should someone need, to drop, or should someone need to have a question about deck lists or things like that. I think, doing it with one person, it would have been not impossible, but certainly a strain on our time and our mental energy. And
Yeah.
so it was great to have those, other people to work with. And I particularly want to shout out Natalie, who devoted a lot of attention to making sure that things were running smoothly in terms of registration and signing up for the event. I kind of did a lot of the front end things, doing like setting up the Discord and making sure that that was very user friendly, in the sense that everyone kind of, would know exactly how the tournament was going to run and how the rounds are going to proceed, and just kind of getting all the infrastructure in the Discord so that just people knew, where to go, when, and how to do the things that they needed to do. And then again, Natalie took care of a lot of that back end stuff, the behind the scenes, where it was, people registering and dropping and
Yeah.
submitting things and getting onto Battlefly and different things like that. So absolutely, you need a team to do this. And going forward, it would definitely be something that we would look to potentially expand the moderation team, just to make sure that should any issues arise, which we really didn't have during the tournaments, but should any issues arrive, that we have the necessary people there to be able to deal with it.
Yeah. And I think that's definitely an awesome part of it, is that it was a real collaborative effort, and you could really see that in the tournament itself as it was actively going on. You had Natalie running the rounds, you had you running the stream, Andrew kind of running the stream table and helping that get organized. It was super cool. So talk to me more about the stream specifically. What was it like to solo cast a tournament? Was it exhausting even to have to cast on your own for so long? Were there things that you would change?
Yeah, solo casting was pretty difficult in the sense that you are trying to juggle not only what's happening with the game, but also trying to juggle deck lists and certain cards and certain attacks and things like that. You get in a little bit of a rhythm, and you get into a rhythm of the way that you need to speak about certain cards. So if you forget the attack name on one of the cards, you don't go trying to search for it, although I probably did that a couple of times. But you move on in a way that still gives the listener an understanding of what's going on without you sounding like you don't know what you're talking about. So that's a real struggle as a solo caster, because you're trying to figure out, okay, what's everybody playing, especially if you're moving to different games, midstream, jumping into different scenarios, and then you're trying to keep, just anything that you would during a regular game in play. So just trying not to forget that the opponent GX attacked, or trying to remember that, okay, this Pokemon has this amount of damage on it, and that means that it has this amount of HP remaining. Sometimes it gets a little bit funky when you're casting, particularly with Discord, because some people's streams are a little bit shaky, and that's not to say like we don't appreciate having you stream. We 100% appreciated everyone that streamed their games, but that can also be hard because sometimes it gets difficult to make out some of the HPs and some of the damage counter placements. But
Sure.
Yeah, those are some of the things that were difficult. I would absolutely say that casting solo was something that I enjoyed. I mean, because it is a lot more freeform than casting with another person. You really have to bounce off that other person. If they don't bring the same energy or a higher energy, then it can be kind of difficult to cast with someone.
Right.
But casting solo was great. Absolutely. Would do it again.
Cool. Anything that you would change going forward? Was there lessons that we learned as a result of this tournament that you think you're going to take into the next one?
Lessons learned would be, I think there were a few minor changes that we could make to the round end and just maybe put those up front. So, everyone that was involved at the tournament wanted to make sure that the rounds progressed like almost as quickly as possible. And I think you can really do that in a format like this, where, it's games can be over relatively quickly compared to, most any other format. And
Right.
so, you want to just kind of speed things along. And I think there was one round where we, maybe started the round, 5 or 10 minutes early, but people thought that they had maybe a little bit more time if a round is 30 minutes. We were kind of saying, oh, okay, well, if we need those 30 minutes, then all players will have them. But we ended up starting a round early because everyone had already finished their games. And then what that resulted in was somebody, unfortunately being tardy to the next round. And so that would be something that we might say up front, either that we will just adhere to this kind of 30-minute segment style, which is fine. We'll still probably get the tournament done, in that 3-hour window. But,
Yeah.
Just making sure that whatever that decision is on round start, that we make it up front and we let everybody know that, hey, we're going to run it this way.
Sure. So, is there anything that you thought was particularly successful, flipping from the kind of the reverse of lessons learned and things that you could grow from? Was there something that you just really enjoyed or are really proud of as a result of this event?
Well, I think it was great. I mean, it's just another online tournament series that a lot of people were excited for. I think the positivity that we've seen in the Discord amongst players was great. You're seeing a lot of newer players, or maybe players that haven't really participated at a regional or even local level, that are feel comfortable in the setting and the community that Andrew and Natalie and you and me have all kind of created, and all the other Full Grip affiliated team members have created, and they felt very comfortable kind of coming out to this event and knowing that okay, yeah, they're not going to look to maybe win, but they also know that by participating in this, that they're not going to have a negative experience with any other member of the community. And so that was a real positive that I saw just throughout everything. People were very respectful before the tournament, getting into the tournament. If they had questions, it wasn't ever no one was ever really harsh with any of the admins. And then during the tournament, no one really rule sharked or cheated in any way. So we were very not surprised, because again, the community that has been kind of created around Full Grip is a very welcoming one, I would say. But it's just, we're very thankful that nothing did happen.
Yeah. The Pokemon community always likes to tout itself as being, a welcoming, inclusive one. And I think, compared to many gaming communities, that's true. I do think the circle that we formed around Tag Team and Tricky Jim and Flex Daddy as a whole is really one that I'm proud of and happy to be a part of. So that's awesome. I'm glad that you feel the same way.
Yeah, definitely. It was a great, well-run tournament. I think one of the positives to the series is that, yeah, we do just really want to adhere and respect people's time that they've devoted to this. And so that kind of is the guiding principle, at least for these early ones, of just kind of keeping it as this challenge-esque tournament where we're going to be over in 3 hours. And that going in, and you don't have to worry about, some malfunction happening, keeping you there late in the day or anything like that. We're just going to be prompt, on time, smooth, and, get you in and out and play some competitive Pokemon for, very reasonable and strong prizes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And get you out of there with enough time to, finish your night off and not have to worry about, when you're going to get to bed for work in the morning.
That's awesome. Yeah, really well done, man. I enjoyed it a lot. I'll definitely be participating in more in the future.
Yeah, that's great. It was another great opportunity too, for you and Andrew, I think, to play competitively, because I know you guys haven't done a ton of the online tournaments for just various reasonable reasons,
Yeah.
and so it was great to see you both participate. I want to ask you, Riley, what was your experience with the tournament?
Before I go into that, I do have one last question for you. You referenced
Oh, sure.
attacks that were difficult to remember. Which was the one that stumped you the hardest?
It was the Alolan Muck GX attack. A
Nasty goo
nasty
mix.
goo mix.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, because like you get with the Mewtwo deck, and there's just so many different attacks. So I just,
That's tough.
your mind kind of blanks a little bit. So that was for sure the hardest one to remember.
Nasty goo mix GX. That's a lot of words in one attack too.
Yeah. Yeah. And normally, and again, it comes back to like kind of a principle that we talk about a lot on the podcast, and that I certainly talk a lot about, is just like how your brain kind of organizes information. And so, I think of the GX attack as just being the, Muck Muck GX. Like that's how I compartmentalize it in my brain.
Right.
I don't ever look at the attack name. And I think that's pretty much the case outside of
Charizard GX and
right. And like the other one is Ultimate Ray on ADP. Like I don't really look at that attack because I'm never really, I don't know, hoping to, or I'm never really thinking about using it. I'm thinking about using the Alter Creation. Like ADP is Alter Creation, and like also has an attack, but that's another one that I just forget because I compartmentalize it in a certain way that isn't conducive to remembering the name of the attack there. So it's pretty funny.
Oh, I get it, man. So on my side, though, I ended up not doing so well in the tournament itself, although I wasn't on my A game, and so I take partial responsibility for that as well.
Yeah.
But I played Mad Party. I wanted to have some good fun with a deck that I thought was pretty decent. I still think it's actually pretty good, although I definitely did not hit the kinds of decks that I was expecting, to be honest. If I was being perfectly honest with you, I was expecting like a fair amount of Senti Scourge. It was like one deck that I thought was going to be overrepresented.
Yeah.
Instead, I fought like a bunch of random stuff that I really did not expect and would be in the other category on meta charts. And they weren't bad decks. Like they were well constructed, thoughtful decks, but they were just well outside the range of things that I was prepared for. And with a deck like Mad Party, you really don't want that. So
right. You're supposed to be the deck that not everyone's prepared for, as opposed to it being the other way around.
So I was telling you, I was telling you this before the cast, I would almost rather play ADPs because I have a very straightforward game plan, and I know what I'm doing in that matchup very well. But instead I played decks that I was completely unfamiliar with, like Sableye, Goon kind of decks, and like Lapras VMAX decks, and I was just not prepared for that. Sableye decks. All in all, though, it was super fun. The deck itself went pretty well. I wouldn't change too much about the list. I think Mad Party's kind of flexible in how you play it. There's like a couple different engines that work pretty well. I have them all built on TCGO and play them all fairly liberally just because I really like the deck. I would definitely play Mad Party again. If anyone wants to talk about Mad Party or as a list, feel free to hit me up. I don't want to go too deep in the details of it. I'll save you all the heartache on the cast, but I think it's a decent deck. Does it hold up in the meta? I mean, it's probably like a tier 2 or 3 deck. But that's fine. I mean, I was intending to go in with a tier 2 or 3 deck anyway. I was literally the 2 decks I talked about on the Roadcast, the Water Mewtwo and the Mad Party. Those were I was playing one of those 2 decks, no matter what. And it was fun. And Brady and I actually played the same deck. He ended up dropping once he picked up a second loss. I think he got donked by an Eternatus. With a little scoop up shenanigans. And so he ended up playing like Among Us instead, but I stuck it out for a while just because I love playing the deck and it's super fun. I mean, on the whole, though, my experience even outside of playing was super good. My opponents were all very gracious, very fun to play with. It was very smooth, not a lot of wait time. And when there was, I could always count on being able to tune in the stream, and there was like always a game going on. Very rarely was there downtime. So I never really felt like I was sitting around waiting, which is really, in talking with you, I think that's one of the things we don't like the most about these tournaments is when you just have nothing to do between the rounds. And so I had a really good time. I will definitely be playing in more in the future. Will I play Mad Party in all of them? Probably play in some of them. Um, maybe not all.
Sure.
Might have to recoup some of my money before I play too much Mad Party. But
Yeah.
once we get to like an even like Mad Party donations and other deck recuperations, then I think we'll hit the balance that
There
we're
you
looking
go.
for. So
That's what's up.
um, overall, really happy with how it was run. Really happy with my opponents, and honestly, I was pretty happy with the deck. So, no
Yeah.
complaints here.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, it's just the online scene is here to stay, at least for the next 3 6 months, and so we're happy to just add to that. There's a pretty rich tournament scene right now, and just hoping to put our own little spin on that and make something unique to the Full Grip brand.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we're on the right to getting that. So, thank you to JW. Thank you to Natalie for really plowing through the back end of this and making it so successful. If you guys aren't already, make sure to show your love to Natalie. She is really the backbone of the scene here at the Grip. So
She is. She does a lot of stuff for the shop and for the series. So the next one will be in a couple weeks. So registration will drop on the 23rd, and then 2 Tuesdays from now on the 29th will be the next tournament. So if you're interested in playing, there are only 64 slots, and you'll have the reg pretty quickly, like within 2 hours of the registration opening, because I would expect that many people to re-register pretty quickly again. So
yeah,
be on the lookout.
super cool. Thanks again, JW, for helping to get that going.
Of course.
Next up on our list, as part of our new season 3 special, is the card of the day. And so this week I wanted to bring a fun card that I've really enjoyed. It was kind of a one-hit wonder, and that is Lucario GX. I want to reminisce about Lucario when there was a good fighting card. In a meta that's full of Eternatus, I'm sure we're all wishing that there was a good fighting card, and this was one. So,
Yeah.
for the unfamiliar, Lucario GX, when it evolved from Riolu, for 1 fighting energy, did 120 damage. Kind of Golisopod-esque. Not exactly. But the real star of the show for Lucario is it also had a GX attack, identical actually to Mad Bull GX on Tauros, for those who are familiar, where you do 3 times the amount of damage you've taken back to your opponent. And basically what this amounted to was Lucario was phenomenal against Zoroark decks, because Zoroark didn't have a good way to hit it without taking a Cantankerous, which is also one of my favorite attack names ever, is Cantankerous.
Cantankerous beatdown.
And I think it's Aura Strike is the first attack. So it was really good against Zoroark at the time, because Zoroark didn't have a good way to answer it. But ironically, it was also a good partner for Zoroark, as like a Zoroark answer / high damage output card, because with strong energies and
Right.
Choice Band, even Diancie or Kukui, you could really hit the numbers with that card. You could get up to 190 without even a Diancie in your bench, with just strong energy, Choice Band, Kukui. The math back in the time with Zoroark was so interesting.
Yeah. Right. Right.
So it was just a super fun card, but it only really saw success once in Standard. I mean, it saw some like niche play here and there. The only time I think it really was successful in Standard, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, was in the immediate fallout of the team upset dropping, where Zoroark, Lucario, Lycanroc was like the anti-Pikarom, anti-meta kind of deck. And it was a really good deck. It was really fun. Some people even took it even further, played Lucario, Lycanroc, and Weavile, which was a little extra if you ask me, but
Yeah.
but still a viable option, I guess. And that was pretty much it. I don't think it ever saw success in Standard outside of that, which was really quite sad, because my friends and I were super excited when the box came out, and we all got a bunch of them. And I just want to show Lucario the love it deserves. So thank you, Lucario, for all that you do. Thank you for your very cool Focus Sash deck and Expanded that is now completely unviable.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Great attack names. Very cool art. I think
Lucario's a cool card, man.
It came out with a shiny, and it was just like looking sweet in the Hidden Fates.
Lucario's a cool Pokemon too. I know Lucario kind of started maybe a trend of like the cool, like edgy Pokemon. You know what I'm saying? That what persisted for a couple generations. Like Zoroark and Lucario, honestly, are in the same genre of Pokemon.
Sure. I feel that.
But honestly, maybe I'm just a sucker, but I like those Pokemon. I like them a lot. Do you buy into the edgelord Pokemon trope?
The edgelord Pokemon trope. Who else would be in there?
Greninja's in there.
Greninja.
I like Greninja too.
Kind of more like humanoid.
Yeah, and Decidueye's like kind of on the fringe of it.
Okay. What about, where does Skrelp fit in there?
Skrelp is definitely... Skrelp like hangs with the crew, but they're not like overly supportive of him being there.
Okay. That would make sense.
But nobody has the heart to tell Skrelp to leave because his mom gives them cookies.
Right, of course. But basically, you're like, it seems like you're describing all the Smash characters.
Yes.
That are Pokemon.
Absolutely. There's overlap between those genres, yeah.
Yeah. That's funny.
They're like Pokemon that are designed to be popular, you know? Like, you look at Zoroark and you're like, yeah, this was the Pokemon that was supposed to be popular from Gen 5.
Yeah, I don't know, like Garchomp, I guess?
No, I don't think Garchomp's all the way there.
Really?
Not
you don't
humanoid
think it was
enough.
designed to be popular?
Garchomp was definitely designed to be popular, but he doesn't really fit into the same mold, you know?
Bro, if they have like, I think that's what you're actually looking for, is like if they have extra spikes somewhere, then they're supposed to be cool. Like Lucario has like spikes that I'm looking at it now, and I like never really realized.
Yeah, he has spikes on his hand. He has like one on his chest.
He has a spike on his chest. Bro.
Yeah.
It doesn't really make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, you got Zoroark with his very large mane, Lucario with his big spikes on his hands, and it looks uncomfortable almost. Like the chest spike, like I mean, you could just like hit that in your day to day.
And how do you hug someone?
Lucario will never know the joy of a hug without also the sorrow of stabbing said person.
Yeah. I mean, he will be able to hug, but they're also dead.
It's a one-time deal.
Side hugs forever, or maybe Lucario is just like the ultimate, like friend zone Pokemon.
Yeah, he only hover hands.
Only side hugs. Yes. Yeah.
Imagining Lucario give a hover hand to his trainer is definitely cool.
Yeah, that's pretty epic for sure.
That's sick, man. Also, Lucario had a movie which was very good. Do you know why that movie was good, JW?
No, enlighten me.
It was because this is the movie that had the Reggie Pokemon, and the Reggie Pokemon were so funny in the movie.
Okay.
They weren't meant to be comedic, but they sounded hilarious.
I was gonna say, did it have to do with their voice? Yeah, I haven't seen a ton of the Pokemon movies, so maybe we should like have a watch party or something.
You gotta at least look up like Regice in the movie. It is so funny, man.
Yeah, the only Pokemon related movie meme that I know is "My horn is my sword."
Yeah, that one's good too. My horn, my sword. I watched them all with my friends in college. Honestly, Pokemon movies are really fun.
They seem pretty busted for sure.
They're super fun, man. I love how Pokemon say their names. That rocks.
Yeah, but a lot of them make sense. And then, yeah, you get to some that just, they go off the rails. Like they've run out of distinctive noises to make. And they just get kind of weird, certainly in Gen 5, 6, you look at starting to see that, I feel like Gen 1, like made a lot of sense. Like Bulbasaur, everyone knows how Bulbasaur sounds, everyone knows how, Charmander sounds, but like how, who knows what Skrelp sounds like? That's what I'm saying,
You're just this anti-Skrelp.
Bro, it should not be a Pokemon.
I like Skrelp. Honestly, the more you hate Skrelp, the more fond I grow of Skrelp.
Really? So that's actually all the Skrelp power in the universe resides between us.
Exactly. Well, moral of the story: shout out to Lucario, shout out to Lucario GX. I wanted to give praise to a fighting type Pokemon that um, doesn't get to thrive in today's format.
For sure.
So let's move into then the meta. I think that's a perfect shift. So obviously, with a Void in the fighting type, there's one deck that really benefits from that, and that's going to be the Eternatus deck. Eternatus VMAX with its um, 270 damage, turn 2 every game, get Zigzagoons or Poison or, whatever dark type you have in your deck box at the time.
Yeah.
Honestly, straightforward. We talked about it a bunch. Eternatus, powerful as ever. The other deck that really succeeded at Full Grip, even more so than Eternatus, getting 5 of the top 8 spots, was ADP Zacian. So, again, we don't have to go into what got us there. We know ADP Zacian. There's a couple shifts that we've seen over the list over time, but fundamentally, the core of the deck, Altered Creation, Gus game, is preserved. So let's dive into those one by one. We'll start with ADP Zacian because it saw more success. JW, why do you think ADP Zacian was such a good pick for the Full Grip Online series? And do you think that is sustainable going forward?
Yes, I do. I do think it is sustainable going forward. I mean, this kind of the whole meta in general feels like an end game to the meta as a whole. Like if we are looking at the 2 best decks, I think being, Eternatus and ADP, like that's pretty much that was the entire meta for this last tournament. And so I think, we're looking at kind of this, at least in this one tournament, we saw what the end game of this format could look like. And that's scary. That's a little bit exciting. Certainly we're going to be getting a new set here coming up, maybe shake a few things up, but yes, it definitely revolves around this ADP and Eternatus. And what I like from the ADP list is that they are going very aggressive into gusting. The list that won played 4 Boss's Order, an Eldegoss to recycle Boss's Order, and a Great Catcher. So being able to gust up to 6 times, you're obviously not going to need that many gusts, but the fact that you have access to it as many times as you do is great for that deck. And then we also saw another list that has been floating around that Danny played at this tournament, and that involved just kind of not even playing like disruption cards aside from a Mawile. I believe he played a Mawile, but the biggest thing there was playing the 4 Gust and then via the Boss's Orders, and then 4 Gust via Pokemon Catcher.
Yeah.
So really trying to take advantage of gusting up the bench Pokemon and, going all in for that strategy, playing 4 Research as the only draw supporter, and then playing a bunch of Gusts and a bunch of Dedenne, like 3 Dedenne, a Crobat, just trying to get that stuff out and really going for broke on that strategy. He ended up going, I believe, 4-2, started out 4-0, and, hit a couple of rough matchups there towards the end. But that would be where I would look for ADP to go in the future. Just having those gust options is absolutely enormous for the deck. And I think it's got it. I mean, it's here to stay. It was here to stay. But this tournament really showed like just how powerful ADP can be. I feel like we've had for the last, month or so of this format, like we've seen people kind of almost intentionally turn away from ADP because of, this ban ADP movement, or just they want to try something new. And this tournament really showed me like, yes, ADP is just as powerful as it was, and it's not going to go anywhere. And it really should make up, a large portion of the metagame.
Yeah, I even want to specifically call out, I like the Pokemon Catcher list a lot. That's very similar to the kinds of engines I've been running in ADP. But ADP saw a lot of success with very different structures. Yeah. I mean, the core of ADP, there's a lot of cards that preserve no matter what version of ADP you're playing. but there was a lot of variation in like the minutia. So Michael Zealy got second. He played Crushing Hammers. Danny Altavilla obviously playing the Pokemon catchers, like you said. There's some that are playing Turbo Patches. There's some that are playing, just some more straightforward, like Boss's Orders and Marnie kind of style, maybe leaning more into Zamazenta. So really, there's just so much going on with these ADP decks. And I mean, it's just a testament to how strong the deck is if it can succeed in so many ways that people aren't agreeing yet on what is the best way to play it while it's still winning tournaments.
Sure. Yeah.
So, I mean, ADP, obviously, we've said it a bunch of times, very strong card, phenomenally powerful. And that was really just a case study in how good it is. People, I feel like we've gotten the rhetoric time and time again that, like, ADP, how big of a deal is it really if it's not winning tournaments? Which, A, I think is faulty logic, but B, we just proved that's not true. So.
Yeah, sure. And of course, this was a cap tournament, and there could have been many different reasons that people chose ADP. Like, for instance, maybe a lot of people thought that a lot of other people would bring random decks, and so they were like, okay, I just want to beat the random decks, so that's why I'm going to go with ADP. So it was a limited tournament to 64 people, and the 64 people that registered first. So, certainly that has to be kind of a factor of like, well, okay, if you're going to go to this tournament, what's just maybe a comfort pick or a pick that's going to do well against the field. And I think, that certainly played into why so many people played ADP. But from my experience, I haven't found ADP to have a good matchup against Eternatus. And I know that I was just watching Omnipoke's video about 100 games with ADP, and I found that really fascinating because his results were drastically different from my results with the ADP versus Eternatus matchup. And so on his end, he found the ADP was significantly favored. On my end, I feel like Eternatus, while not significantly favored, is favored in that matchup. And so it's just been really interesting to see how, you see that kind of play out in and of itself, and watching it unfold on the stream the other day was really nice.
Yeah, I personally think ADP has an edge in the matchup.
Yeah,
I think it more consistently does what it wants turn 2 than Eternatus. And the addition of catchers actually makes the gusting so much easier.
Right.
So if you have a combination of catchers and Mawile, then I think you're pretty set for the matchup, right? Like, because you got a 2 energy attacker, you kill 2 Crobats, you have Boss's Orders and Pokemon Catcher to do it. So.
Right. Sure. And of course, there would be ways for Eternatus to play around that, but it gets really hard when Crobat is the draw of your deck. So, whether or not I hit into, whether or not it is a good matchup for ADP, certainly I need to figure out a little bit more. Again, I may be hitting into the variance that gives me a different outcome and gives me a different opinion. But, it's interesting. I do think that Eternatus, very strong deck. ADP, very strong deck, probably the 2 strongest decks in the format right now, and we absolutely saw that in the results. Now, the cool thing about the Eternatus, we also saw some variance, just like we saw with ADP lists, and the variance in Eternatus came from whether or not they played a poison style version with Toxicroaks and Dark Cities and Slowbro Vs and Garbodors, or whether or not they played, the more consistent, not even consistent, but the more straightforward list, I guess, with Zigzagoons and Scoop Up Nets.
Yeah.
And that was interesting to see kind of play out, because both lists did do pretty well, but to see the poison list actually perform in this tournament, where I hadn't ever really seen it take up, the higher placements in other tournaments, was really cool to see.
Yeah. So do you have any preferences yourselves about what kind of list you think is better? Do you think it depends on metagame?
Well, I've been working a lot with a player who plays the poison list, and he just really loves it. And I can see now why he does, because that poison damage does add up over the course of the game, and is pretty good in the mirror. And that's kind of what I was looking for in Eternatus list, is being able to hit those high numbers. And with a poison deck, I mean, you really can. You can get up to the numbers that you want to hit pretty reliably if you can get a couple of Toxicroaks out. So I'm gonna mess a little bit more with that variant, and the poison, also has some reasonable use. And actually, I mean, not reasonable use, has very good use in some of your less than stellar matchups. So things like Decidueye was a bad matchup, but with the poison, you can do 50 damage, per passing of the turn, and that adds up insanely quick. And same with something like Lucario Melmetal or any other deck that would play, a couple of the Zamazentas. You just get that poison stuff, and all of a sudden they're just racking up damage way faster than they can heal. So I think it's a cool little inclusion that does actually shore up some of the bad matchups for Eternatus. The downside would be, of course, you're trying to set up more things. So if you go, Toxicroak and Garbodor, trying to set up 3 stage 2s, and that's a lot to ask for. But again, the reward can be very worth it.
Do you think Garbodor is the superior poison engine to just running Galarian Slowbro?
Well, the thing about Slowbro is that it really only works after a knockout, and realistically, you're only going to get one Pokemon knocked out. So the Slowbro is, I think, a necessity. I think you need to have it, but I don't know that you can necessarily rely on it unless you're including, potentially even more than 6 switch outs. Like,
I mean, I think with Switch and Dark City, it's if you play a heavy switch count.
Yeah, but I mean, you might even need like Birdkeeper. Like it hasn't worked out when I've been playing the Slowbro that it makes a lot of sense to have that double switch in hand, or you just don't have that, with Marnie and Reset Stamp being, as prominent as they have been. Never really works out that way to have the double switch when you absolutely need it.
Well, so, if you play a decent amount of Dark City, you just need one, right?
No, for sure.
I feel like stadiums actually do kind of stick in this format.
Yeah. It's just something that I found from testing with a few different people.
Sure.
That it hasn't quite worked out. I think you would need a couple of Bird Keepers and certainly the switches, and certainly the Dark City to make sure that you can have that double switch turn when you need it.
Sure. So were there any other decks that you found to be interesting or surprising up in the top ranks?
Yeah, well, the Salamence. I don't think we can go without mentioning Salamence.
Yeah.
So Salamence was piloted by David Negrete to 3rd place. Very cool little list here, showing off what Salamence can do with the Lightning and Triple Acceleration version of the deck. So really strong list, very consistent, utilize powerful energy and Triple Excel and the Lightnings, of course. And, I wasn't able to cast him at all. Didn't cast a game that he was playing in or playing, with. So I didn't get to see the deck in action, but seems like about as good of a list as you can make for this archetype. And it's cool to see him do well. I heard that it had a pretty decent ADP matchup.
That's sick.
Yeah.
I'll have to see more of that deck in action. I was excited to see it up there, though.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, whether or not this archetype can succeed, I doubt it. I mean, I think David was, he did very well, and I'm sure he was playing brilliantly, but whether or not he was expecting to do that well, I'm not sure. It's a list that I definitely want to try out, though, because it certainly is, a card that I really enjoy, and I've kind of pictured Salamence being a little bit better with Welder because it's a little bit more sustainable than having to find a Triple Acceleration every single turn. But at the same time, Triple Excel maybe is a little bit faster in the sense that you don't need to set up this combo to get going. So it'll be curious to see whether or not this list can, perform well again in the future.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. Any other major showings that you want to shout out?
We had a couple of Decidueye Goons players. Again, I think that deck is pretty strong, assuming that you don't see a lot of Eternatus with poison. That's kind of the the killer there. Decidueye Goons has a very strong matchup against both Eternatus and ADP. assuming you can get things out, assuming you don't dead draw and brick. But that's a deck that I really enjoy in this format, especially being as kind of polarized as it is around those two top decks. You can try to bring out these counter strategies, and I think that's one of the best counter decks right now.
Yeah, really rough Sonic Scorch matchup if you happen to run into that, though.
That's true. That's true. And luckily, yeah, I was working with Ryan a little bit on his list, and luckily for him, he didn't play many Scorch. And like you were saying earlier in the cast, there weren't really any Scorch in the field.
I was really expecting a couple, man. I did play one, and I did beat them.
Yeah, you did, bro. I'm proud of you.
But I was expecting like randomly like a lot of Scorch. I don't know why.
Yeah, me too. Honestly, I was like, man, there could definitely be like.
I feel Scorch in the air,
It's brewing.
It wasn't actually brewing though. I was quite sad.
Oh well.
Cool.
Maybe in 2 weeks.
Maybe play Scorch, guys. I need this for Mad Party. So I think now's a perfect time to open up to questions. If you all have any questions, we'll answer a couple of them before we sign off for the day. As always, we appreciate your listenership and viewership. It means a lot to us, and your continued support is what allows us to keep making this podcast and continue developing our content with things such as the Full Grip series.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to scroll up here. I thought there maybe was a
couple of questions.
Yeah, so we got a question. Why did the Full Grip tournament not have a top cut?
Yeah, addressing this a little bit earlier in the cast, but just trying to keep everything concise and be very respectful of people's time, and just making sure that they know what they're getting into. And I think on the flip side of that is like also for us as the creators of this and especially being the first tournament, we want to make sure that it runs on time, people get in and out, and that there's no extraneous action happening that could delay the tournament, or if there is, that it wouldn't affect the tournament too much that we couldn't still get the tournament done within a reasonable amount of time. And you look at a lot of other online tournaments, and certainly this is not bad mouthing any other tournament at all, but you've seen kind of technical difficulties in some of the other tournaments, and that was just something that we wanted to avoid. Or if it did happen, it wouldn't be this kind of massive scale tournament that we'd have to kind of reinvent the wheel to even finish it on that day. So keeping the player number at a cap and eliminating a top cut not only kept us within this kind of 3-hour goal limit, but it also helped to give the tournament a different feel. And I think that was also something that we were going for with this tournament series of certainly, again, prizes on the line that were good. They were great prizes. A lot of store credit on the line that a lot of people were really looking forward to, but also making sure that it wasn't so high stakes that people felt intimidated by trying to enter.
For sure. We got a question from Fireflame Fire Zero, excuse me. Is there a breakdown of the meta share from the Full Grip tournament available?
There is, yeah. Natalie made a little graph. So if you follow her, she posted it on Twitter, and there actually might also be one in the Discord for the tournament series. I haven't checked recently, but she certainly has it on Twitter.
Awesome. So be sure to check out Natalie's Twitter and the Full Grip online series Discord. Thank you all so much, as always. Be sure to follow us on Twitter as well. That's at Smiles with Riles and at RealJohnWalter. And follow the streams. So that's Munner and Flex Daddy Righteous on Twitch. And we will be catching you all next time. I appreciate you, as always. Peace.
See ya.